In this class, we are going to start from parthenocarpy, and also we are going to study about the dispersal of seeds and also the seed viability. So first let's start from the parthenocarpy. So parthenocarpy is a method or a way of development of fruits, but these fruits will not be developed from fertilization of the ovary or after the fertilization of the ovule. So these fruits are not products of fertilization, and therefore these fruits will not have any seeds. No sexual reproduction is involved in the case of parthenocarpy. So the first thing to know about parthenocarpy is that this method will involve production of fruits, but those fruits will not have seeds. That is, these fruits would be seedless. So formation and or production and development of seedless fruits is called as for parthenocarpy, and there would not be any fertilization taking place over here. So let's see the types of parthenocarpy. So the first type of parthenocarpy is the vegetative parthenocarpy, and here the stimulus is not required. That is, the parthenocarpy will take place on its own. No external stimulus is required in this case. That is, without the stimulus. No stimulus is required in this case. And we have the examples of this case, that is the pear and fig. Likewise, we have another type of parthenocarpy which is called as stimulative parthenocarpy. So as the name suggests, a stimulus will be required in this case. That is, in the case of stimulus parthenocarpy, the parthenocarpy will not take place on its own. There has to be some external stimulus, and the examples are, the very common example is the grapes one. So grapes that we normally eat that don't have seeds inside them, those grapes are developed through this stimulus or stimulative parthenocarpy. Now the third type is the genetic one. So in genetics chapter, we are going to study about something called as genetic hybridization and also something called as mutation. So mutation is basically any change in the base sequence of DNA, which we will study in the genetics chapter, but here we are just getting a reference of that. And also we have to study about hybridization in genetics. So in hybridization, different alleles of the same genes are combined. That is called as hybridization. So due to hybridization or due to the mutation, such types of parthenocarpy which are induced in some species or which occur in some species due to the genetic aberrations or like mutation and also the hybridization. So because of these events, if parthenocarpy is happening, we call it normally as genetic parthenocarpy. Now the very common examples of these are banana, pineapple, navel, orange, grape and also pears. So as you can see, grapes are examples over here also and over here also. So one fruit or one vegetable or whatever you call it can come into different categories. So it's not that grapes can only be parthenogenetically grown as this method, but it can also be grown with this method. So anyway, those are the examples which are coming in different categories. Now the other type of parthenocarpy is the environmental. So there are certain environmental factors like low temperature or frost or fog. So these are normally low temperature or winter occurrences. We know that in winters temperature is low. The frost can also occur due to very low temperature, and fog is also generally observed in winters, not in summers. So you can understand that these three conditions are normally of the winter season. So because of those low temperature and along with frost and fog, some parthenocarpy can be induced in some plants. For example, the very common one is tomato. So tomato can come into any of these three categories. So in either this category, or in this category. Tomato comes under multiple types of parthenocarpy also. And now the last type of parthenocarpy that we have to study is the hormonal. So in chapter number 15 in your 11th class, you must have studied about plant hormones. For example, auxins, gibberellin, cytokinin, abscisic acid and also ethylene. So these are the 5 plant hormones that you must have studied in your 11th class. So we are taking two hormones from there, and the first one is auxin and the other is gibberellin. So these two hormones can be used to stimulate or to induce parthenocarpy in many plants. The most common example is also here is tomato. Apart from that, you must have heard about something called citrus fruits. So citrus fruits includes lime, lemon, likewise the orange. The such citrus fruits are together called as citrus. And one other example is the vitis. So in these fruits we can apply auxin or gibberellin and cause parthenocarpy. That is, these two hormones, auxins and gibberellins, can cause parthenocarpy. And here environmental conditions was low temperature, frost and fog. Likewise here due to genetic alteration caused by mutation or hybridization. So these are the factors which are causing parthenocarpy in different varieties, and these are the two common types, that is the two main categories, vegetative and stimulative. So we have to study about these 5 type of parthenocarpy, or 5 sorts of parthenocarpy, or different events that lead to parthenocarpy, or factors which lead to parthenocarpy in different plants. So this was our parthenocarpy that we have to study. In 2019 NEET question paper, a direct question came from this parthenocarpy, and the question was asking that seedless or development of fruits is called as parthenocarpy or parthenogenesis, and there were 2 other options. So the correct answer was parthenocarpy. So it is important, and it has been recently asked in NEET also. So this was about our parthenocarpy. Now we would study about the dispersal of seeds. So in your younger classes you must have studied about seed dispersal. So it is a very simple thing. What happens in the case of seed dispersal is spreading or the separation of the seed from the parent plant to far off places. So what happens in the case of seed dispersal is that the seeds or the offsprings of the plant will be carried to far off places, not just around the tree. So if a plant grows just near to its parent plant, then both these plants will compete for the same resources from the soil. And if the seeds of a plant grow or germinate nearby the plant, then it will lead to overcrowding, and in a certain area only a species would be found. So species diversity in a small area would not be there. So there are lots of problems if seed dispersal does not take place. The first problem that could occur if seed dispersal does not take place, the first problem would be overcrowding near the parent species. So if a parent species produces a parent plant which produces a lot of hundreds or thousands of seeds in its vicinity, then if all those seeds germinate in its vicinity, then there won't be space for other plants also. So what will happen? There would be overcrowding. Likewise, suppose there is a drought condition in that area, then all the plants of that species will get affected, or they might die also. But due to seed dispersal, seed will be carried to far off places, and if drought occurs in a certain area, suppose in certain part of Gujarat there is a drought, but there are many mango trees far off places from Gujarat. So if the drought occurs in a certain area, then all the mango species will not be eliminated. If in a certain area certain mango plants are eliminated, but still there won't be any elimination of the entire species. So because of seed dispersal, any plant or species just spreads over a very large area because of seed dispersal. So seed dispersal is very essential for maintaining species diversity of an area, because of seed dispersal, different species seed will come into an area, and any area will not have any single species but will have multiple species in a certain area. Therefore the diversity of the plant would be there, and different plants would be at different locations of a species, and all the species will not be wiped out single time due to a certain unnatural calamity. So there are certain things and certain advantages which are associated with seed dispersal. So let's start the definition of seed dispersal. So seed dispersal is the transport or spread of seeds. Here we are seeing 3 things: transport or spread of seeds away from their parent, that is the parent plant, wherever it will be located. The seed dispersal event would take the seed to a very far off place. It would not let the seed fall into the area where the parent plant is staying. This is the first and the most important thing about the seed dispersal. Now it is very important because all the seeds of a plant cannot germinate near the parent. Think about it. If the seeds, all the seeds of a parent germinate nearby in its vicinity, what will happen? Overcrowding. So it is important because all the seeds of the plant cannot germinate near the parent, because it will have many problems. All those plants will be competing for the same resources, and none of the plant will be able to give a proper production or productivity, and likewise none of the plants will be able to take all the nourishment or sufficient nourishment from the soil or water, in fact. Now its dispersal helps in transport to different locations. That is, a species plant's seeds will be transported in all directions to various locations, and also helps in diversifying the flora. Diversifying the flora means that in a certain area there will be lots of different species of various kinds, so there would be a lot of diversity in that area. So these are the benefits associated with seed dispersal. Now we come to the different methods of seed dispersal. So in the case of pollination, we had studied about various agents like entomophily, that is insects, anemophily, wind, hydrophily, water, zoophily, animals, malacophily, snails, likewise chiropterophily, bats, ornithophily, birds. This is what we had studied about pollination in the case of cross pollination. So now we will study how seeds are dispersed. We have seen how pollination are occurring. Now we will see how seeds are dispersed. So the first and the common method of seed dispersal is anemochory. So anemochory takes place through wind, and also there is something called as autochory. So in autochory no external agents are required. So what happens? Forceful bursting of fruits. So in the case of autochory, the fruit will just explode or it will burst, and that burst or explosive power will send the seed to far off places. So it won't be very far, but still this explosion power or this bursting power is sufficient to send the seed to a favorable distance. So this is called as autochory. Now if the same happens with the case of wind, yani ki when wind is helping in the transport of seeds, so what happens in that case? So that case is called as anemochory. So through wind, anemochory; through water, hydrochory; and through animals we have zoochory. Just like in the case of pollination, we had different pollinating agents, likewise we have different seed dispersal agents here. So autochory, anemochory, hydrochory and zoochory, these are the four most common methods of seed dispersal. So seed dispersal will diversify the area. Seed dispersal will cause a species to be spread to a large area, and likewise there are certain other advantages, and these are the types of seed dispersal method. So now we have completed our parthenocarpy and also the seed dispersal, and now we have to study about the viability of seeds. That is, how long a seed will be able to germinate after a period of dormancy. That is called as viability. So that is what we are going to study now. Now we would study about the viability of seeds. So the viability of seeds is pretty simple. That is, the period up till which a seed can germinate and produce a plant is called as viability. So when a seed forms and it separates from the parent plant, and the time from then up till the time it has the ability to germinate, that time period or that phase is called as viability period. So this is the time period up till which a seed can germinate. So let's see the definition. The ability of the seed to retain the power of germination up over a period of time. तो उतने समय तक सीड में जो जर्मिनेशन का एबिलिटी होता है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज वायबिलिटी. अब ये वायबिलिटी बहुत लंबी हो सकती है, बहुत छोटी भी हो सकती है. तो कुछ प्लांट्स में वायबिलिटी बहुत कम ही दिनों की होती है, जैसे कि ऑक्सैलिक्स हो गया, या कुछ प्लांट्स में कुछ ही दिनों या कुछ ही हफ्तों की होती है. और लोटस प्लांट के सीड में 1000 ईयर्स तक हो सकती है. लाइकवाइज डिफरेंट प्लांट्स में 100 ईयर्स या उससे भी ज़्यादा हो सकते हैं. तो वायबिलिटी पीरियड अलग अलग स्पीशीज में अलग अलग हो सकता है. सो ये फ्यू डेज से लेकर के 100 ऑफ ईयर्स तक वेरी कर सकता है. लाइक लोटस के केस में 1000 ईयर्स तक हो सकता है. सो इसके अलावा अब हमें जानना है कि कौन से फैक्टर्स होते हैं जो कि वायबिलिटी को इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं. तो ऑब्वियसली सबसे पहला फैक्टर है जेनेटिक. यानी कि सीड का खुद का जो जीन्स है वो उसमें क्या चेंजेस ला सकता है, या जीन्स की क्या प्रॉपर्टी है वो कब तक सीड को वायबिलिटी वाले फेज में मेंटेन कर सकते हैं. सो दीज जीन्स ऑफ द सीड विल डिटरमाइन हाउ लॉन्ग द सीड कैन रिमेन वायबल. But also there are certain environmental factors, and those most important environmental factors are humidity or moisture and also temperature. So temperature and moisture are the most important factors, that is moisture and temperature. Now if we reduce the moisture, if we put the seed in a very dry condition or in a damp condition, that is very wet condition, and also if we increase the temperature, then the period of viability will be reduced. That is, the seed cannot remain viable for long in a very dry state or in a very wet state, and also at high temperature the seed will not remain for viable for a long time. So these three factors, that is excessive dry or damp and high temperature, these are the factors which reduce the viability of the seed. ये seeds की जो viability period है उसे काफी हद तक reduce कर देते हैं. Dry, damp and high temperature ये क्या करेंगे, वायबिलिटी को रिड्यूस कर देंगे. नाउ दो एग्जांपल हमें पढ़ने हैं एनसीईआरटी में. ये एग्जांपल हमने एनसीईआरटी से ही लिया है. सो एनसीईआरटी के जो एग्जांपल है, एक है फिनिक्स डैक्टिलिफेरा और दूसरा है लुपिनस आर्क्टिकस का. सो फिनिक्स डैक्टिलिफेरा का एक सीड मिला था नियर द किंग हेरोड्स पैलेस देयर नियर द डेड सी. So this seed was viable even after a period of 2000 years. So you can imagine how long this seed has been viable, or it has been carrying the potential to germinate for such a long period of time. So one another seed which was very important, and it was excavated from Arctic tundra, and that seed was called that seed belonged to the species of Lupinus arcticus. So this seed germinated and produced plants and flowers after 10,000 years of dormancy. So Lupinus arcticus 2000, the Lupinus arcticus, then we have 10,000 years of dormancy. So you can imagine how long this seed was dormant for. So maybe we find certain species in future which are dormant even for a longer period of time. So for now we have these two species which are the longest, but in future we can have much longer phase or longer viability seeds. So these are the two species. One is Phoenix dactylifera, it was 2000 years old. The other is Lupinus arcticus, it was from Arctic tundra, 10,000 years, and it was near King Herod's palace. So these are the main points over here. That is, we just have to remember the species and how long they have been remaining viable for. So Phoenix dactylifera 2000 years, likewise Lupinus arcticus 10,000 years. Now we have to remember the sites from which they were excavated. Lupinus arcticus, Arctic tundra, likewise the Phoenix dactylifera near King Herod's palace near the Dead Sea. Simple as that. So we have to remember these two examples as it is from the NCERT. Now there are certain things about the viability that we have to know, and that is the loss of viability. Why a seed loses its viability? There must be certain changes in the embryo or in the seed, whatever be the changes. So we are going to study about the changes or the causes which lead to loss of viability. And the first and foremost cause that lead to changes or the loss of viability is the damage to the embryo. If the embryo gets damaged, the seed will lose its viability, because it is the embryo which will ultimately form the plant. So if the embryo is getting damaged, how will it be able to form a plant? So therefore, if the seed is, or the outer part of the seed is okay, but if the embryo is damaged, the seed will not be viable, because once a seed gets damaged, how can the embryo form a new plant? So the first and most important cause or loss of viability is the damage to the embryo. Now the other is exhaustion of food. Now you know very well that in dormancy the seed uses its reserve food. So the reserve food in a seed is either in the case of in endosperm, that is in the case of monocots, or in the case of dicots we have the two cotyledons which store the food. So the food stored in the endosperm or in the dicot cotyledons will not last forever. That food has a certain amount or a certain time up till which that could be used. So if the food around the embryo gets exhausted, then due to lack of food the embryo will die, and once the embryo gets died, it does not, or it causes the loss of viability to the seed. So these are the two causes. Now there is something called denaturation of enzymes. So from your 11th class you must have studied about the enzymes in chapter 9, and you must be knowing every living organisms, every activity is controlled by enzymes. So this embryo or this seed is also a living organism. It also needs certain enzymes to function. So these enzymes are regulating the life activities of this embryo. Now if the embryo's enzymes do not work, or they get denatured, and that denaturation could be due to moisture, or could be due to temperature, or change in pH, or any such reason could lead to denaturation of the enzymes. So if the enzymes get denatured, then the embryo will not be able to germinate, or the seed will not be able to germinate, or the embryo will not be able to form a न्यू प्लांट. तो कोई भी एम्ब्रियो न्यू प्लांट फॉर्म नहीं कर पाएगा अगर उसके एंजाइम्स डैमेज या डीनेचर्ड हो गया. उसके अलावा एक और फैक्टर है एग्जॉशन ऑफ आरएनएज. So this is related to your genetics chapter. So we will not study this thing in detail here because it will require the knowledge of genetics. So what I am telling you here is that in a cell, DNA forms RNAs and RNAs form proteins. So for the formation of proteins, RNAs are must. So in a dormant seed, the formation of RNAs is very less as compared to other parts of the plant, or the other phases of the life of a plant. So the RNAs in a dormant phase or in the dormant seed could get exhausted before the seed germinates. So if the seed's RNAs get exhausted, then the seed will not be able to form proteins. So if the seed will not be able to form proteins, then it will not be viable. That is, it won't be able to produce a new plant. So we will study about this exhaustion of RNAs in very detail in our genetics chapter. But here we just have to know that a seed requires RNAs to make proteins. If RNAs get exhausted, it won't be able to make proteins, and therefore the seed will not be viable, or the seed will not be able to germinate. Now we come to the significance or benefits or the importance of seeds. So there are certain factors which lead to very much production of seeds in certain plants, and some plants produce a bit less number of seeds, and some plants reproduce through various methods. But one thing cannot be ignored, and that is the seeds are a method of perenniation. So any plant which produces seed knows pretty well that seeds can help in perenniation. So what is perenniation? Perenniation is surviving the unfavorable environmental conditions. So a dormant seed can survive unfavorable environmental conditions. So in that case, when there are certain environmental conditions, when an embryo cannot survive, or a normal small plant cannot survive, but a seed, because of its dormancy, it can survive because it will not be showing very high rate of metabolic activity. Therefore a seed can survive unfavorable conditions. A plant may or may not be able to survive unfavorable conditions, but a seed can easily survive unfavorable conditions. Therefore we can say that seeds are a method of perenniation as well. Now the other thing is dispersal. We just have studied about seed dispersal. So seed dispersal helps a plant species to get to newer areas, that is colonize newer areas. So the dispersal of the seeds will help a species to go to new areas or new niches according to the ecology. We will study about niches in ecology also. So new niches are new areas or geographical locations where a plant or an animal or any organism colonizes. So it could help in colonizing new areas, that is the seed dispersal. Now we come to the other method, and that is dependable. Now what does it mean by dependable? In your 11th class, remember your plant kingdom. In plant kingdom, you must remember alga, bryophyta and pteridophyta. There the fertilization or the reproduction in the case of alga, bryophyte and pteridophyte, water was required. But in the case of angiosperms, water is not required, or water is not the medium for seed formation. so it is a more dependable, that is it is independent of water. But in the case of bryophytes, pteridophytes and the thallophytes, that is the alga, इन तीनों के केस में हमें क्या चाहिए होता है, पानी चाहिए होता है रिप्रोडक्शन के लिए, पानी के बिना ये रिप्रोडक्शन नहीं कर सकते हैं, तो वहां पर वो एक मेथड जो है वो काफी अनडिपेंडेबल है। लेकिन ये जो मेथड है ये काफी डिपेंडेबल है क्योंकि यहाँ पर वाटर पे डायरेक्टली डिपेंडेंट नहीं है, तो दिस इज व्हाई दिस मेथड और सीड फॉर्मेशन मेथड इज वेरी मच डिपेंडेबल एज कंपेयर टू द मेथड व्हिच इज फॉलोड बाय alga, bryophytes and pteridophytes. So this is one such factor. Now these two things are for us, these three things are for the plant, that is for the benefit of the plant. Now these two things for human benefit, for our benefit. We know our main foods are these plant seeds only, rice, wheat, maize, these are our main foods, so these are the most common foods that we eat. So these foods, what are these? These are ultimately seeds, rice seed or the wheat seed or the maize, and likewise we eat so many other seeds of various other species like the dry fruits or the pulses, so all those things are seeds. So because of all those seeds which are part of the human diet, because these diet or these seeds are percentage are in almost all the various kinds of foods that we eat, so all the food that we eat almost contains seeds. So seeds are a bit main, and over the world, whatever be the food in whichever country, seeds are the main diet, because without seeds we cannot have rice or wheat on our plate, or maize, likewise nuts, likewise the pulses, so all these are seeds. So seeds are the main and the most major proportion of food, these are our main proportion of the food that we eat. Now we come to the agriculture. In agriculture it is almost totally dependent on seeds, because there are certain methods, like in the case of sugarcane or rose, or there are certain plants like mangoes, we can do vegetative propagation, that is through stems or through leaves or through the roots. These are the three methods of vegetative propagation. But if we remove the vegetative propagation, whatever be the method of agriculture, that is dependent on seed. So seed is the basis of our agriculture, क्योंकि हर जगह पर हर स्पीशीज में हम वेजिटेटिव प्रोपेगेशन नहीं कर सकते हैं, इसी की वजह से सीड्स जो होते हैं वो सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी हैं एग्रीकल्चर के लिए. विदाउट सीड्स वी कैनॉट इमेजिन, इवन टुडे, इवन आफ्टर सो मच टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट इन मेडिकल एंड इन मेडिसिन एंड ऑल्सो इन एग्रीकल्चरल सेक्टर, we don't find any alternatives to seeds. So seeds are that much important. No doubt hybrid plants could be grown in the lab, but still these seeds are still more than 90% of the agriculture is done with the help of seeds. So therefore seeds are the most important factors or ways of agriculture. So this is about today's times. But if we think about 10,000 years ago or 15,000 years ago, when human beings were hunter and gatherers, we were not living in settled civilizations right from the beginning of the Homo sapiens species. We were living like nomads, or we were hunters and gatherers. We used to gather food, we used to hunt animals, but we did not live settled life. So only after agriculture humans started living settled life. And how could humans live settled life with the help of agriculture? Because of the help of seeds. So the early humans who started agriculture, their agriculture was only dependent on seed. So you can imagine how important this seed is, because if the early humans would not have started agriculture, humans would have still been living the life of hunter and gatherer of food. So this seed which formed the basis of agriculture, that seed helped humans to live a settled life. So historically also seed has been so much important for humans. Because of only that we started living as a settled civilization, and that led to the various civilizations like Indus Valley civilizations or various other civilizations of the world. So these are common benefits or significance or importances of seeds of various types or in various aspects of human life. And also for these three benefits, these are beneficial for the plants, and these two are beneficial for the animals or for us, that is humans. So now we have completed the formation of seed and also the dispersal of seed, seed viability and the importance of seed. So all these things are related to the seed, and now only one topic is remaining in this chapter, and that is apomixis and polyembryony. So now we will start apomixis and polyembryony.